Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Just thought I'd chime in and share with you the actual truth, or as close to the truth as I can share with you, about the very first Thanksgiving, or the very first celebration, until it was made a holiday far later in history. But the event that you've all been taught in school growing up since kindergarten and basically brainwashed to believe is absolute nonsense. The truth is far uglier. I don't want to ruin your holiday, but I think that you need to know the true essence of the holiday that's been jammed down your throat, and that you have probably just finished watching a play done by your kids in school. Usually it's in kindergarten or first grade, and you watch some ridiculous propaganda about the wonderful relations with Native Americans and the colonists, who, for the most part, were seeking religious freedom and/or freedom, because half of them were criminals that England didn't want anymore. That's another issue, and this is actually not meant to hurt anyone's feelings or cause a problem. It's just the truth. I offer you the truth. Best I know it, handed down generation to generation in Native Americans and documented in many places if you know where to look for it, but it certainly won't be the official version that you were taught in school. So with that, I will take you back to the time of when the first colonists arrived here on the Mayflower, back to 1621, and by mid-October, their colony was already failing. The many families of the Plymouth colony were probably not going to make it through the winter. They had, previous to the winter coming on, they had made treaties with the chief, the great sachem, Massasoit at the time, and he, by being a great sachem, it means that he was the chief of all the New England tribes. He spoke for all of them, so think of him as, I guess you'd say, a regional governor, and as such, he made a treaty with the colonists based on previous dealings with Europeans, that he created a mutual aid treaty where they agreed to help the Wampanoag, or the Wampanoags, and help them and protect them in mutual aid from being taken into slavery and removed in chains to be sold into slavery in the Bahamas, which was the normal trading route for the Europeans, the Dutch, and so forth. So his mutual aid agreement was that they would come to the aid of the Plymouth colonists should they need it, and that he would keep Native Americans, or as they call us, savages, from attacking them, or any outside tribes that weren't within his purvey that he did not control. He agreed that he would come to their aid and protect them, not only from pirates and other people that might land there, but also from other Native Americans, his own people, however, not under his control. So it was a mutual aid agreement that he had with them, and they agreed as such. So that they had sworn to come to Native American aid, or the Wampanoag tribe's aid, should they need it. And because of that mutual aid agreement, the great sachem Massasoit was told, and history kind of shows this, that they were hearing all kinds of fire coming from firearms in Plymouth proper, Plymouth, Massachusetts, what is now known as Plymouth, Massachusetts, the Plymouth colony, the Plymouth Bay colony, and they were hearing all kinds of erratic firing of their weapons, and he gathered together some of his best braves to go to their aid. Now, there were no women that accompanied them, maybe one or two, but only women that were also warriors, because this was not Thanksgiving or any celebration. This was to come to their aid in the time of need, as he had agreed to. Upon arrival at the Plymouth Bay colony, it was obvious that what they were responding to was no longer a threat. It wasn't a threat in the first place, but it sounded like it was. When they arrived, they realized that most of the colony was collapsing. They were starving. It was the middle of October, 1621, to the end of October, and winter was starting to come on. They had nothing to really harvest. They had failed. They didn't technically follow all of the things that the tribe had tried to show them how to do. And they were hungry, desperate, and drunk, firing their weapons in the air, and basically somewhat suicidal. So Massasoit immediately turned his braves into harvesters, and he sent them out into the woods and into the ocean to retrieve food and sustenance for the colonists, or what you would call the pilgrims, so that they could at least have a few days' food, and they were invited to join them in this feast after saving their asses, their drunken, crazy asses, from this. And of course, after this, they were taken a lot more seriously about how to grow food and how to harvest food from the ocean, whether it be lobster or clams, or there wasn't much turkey, to be honest. There wasn't much wild turkey in the area, but there was an incredible amount of other fowl. There was duck, and there was goose, and there was deer and venison, and most of what they had on Thanksgiving was venison. It was not turkey. Just another one of those things that we've been taught in school, but it isn't so. There probably was a turkey or two, but there wasn't a whole lot of it. Most of it was venison and seafood. In any event, after helping them, they stayed there for the night, and then they returned back to their tribes. And like I said, the relationship became a little bit more serious to the colonists as far as listening to the native Wampanoag tribe, because they realized that they really did not know how to survive a winter in the New England climate, not to mention how to store food or plan for the future. Now, what followed is even far uglier than that, and I don't mention this to ruin your holiday. However, it is factual. If you do your own research, you'll find that everything I've just told you is absolutely true. But you're going to have to look for it. You can't just go to a library and ask another brain-dead, brainwashed person that went to kindergarten is going to point you to some nonsensical book. Look up the real story. Look up the true story. Look up what Native Americans have known forever. And for hundreds of years, we've had to listen to this nonsense about how the pilgrims were harvesting this cornucopia of incredible amounts and sharing it with Native Americans, and inviting us to their feast. I mean, it's ridiculous. They invited us only because we were here, and only because we saved them, and because they'd be dead if we didn't. And since we did, look what happens afterwards. Now, that being said, I have blood from many different, not only tribes, but also from many different countries. So I am just like America. I am a melting pot myself. And I also want to warn you that everything I've just told you is not only about to be jammed down your throats very shortly, but it's, although it might be true, it certainly doesn't solve any problems for anybody. The United Nations has a plan to basically overthrow the United States of America with any basically with, it's just globalism, and it's the elites want to bring America down, where they bring the third world up, and have full control. And although that may sound crazy, one of the ways they get there is to humiliate Americans and to demoralize Americans. So they're going to make the Constitution look horrible. They're going to make your ancestors look horrible. There's all this appropriation and this, racism and Black Lives Matter and Native American Lives Matter and all of this nonsense. Now, again, all lives matter. But I'll tell you that although these things may or may not be factual, most of them are factual, they're only being released now because they can be used the way they want to use them. They haven't cared about Native Americans the whole time. They have been destroying our land and our treaties. They've been dishonoring the treaties, and they have been harming Native Americans the whole time. And if you think that all of a sudden right now that they're going to change on that, and all of a sudden they're going to tell the truth and they love Native Americans, and the United Nations is going to come in and they're going to stop the pipeline and try to help us, let me just explain something to you. That's not what this is about. Although it sounds nice, warm, and fuzzy, that's not what this is about. This is about destroying the Constitution. This is about taking your freedom from you. And the way they do it is to demoralize you, to teach your children this, that we are a terrible nation, and that our ancestors, our forefathers, our grandfathers, our grandmothers were idiots and horrible racist people, so that we no longer listen to common sense from our elders. They want to separate us. They want to get us all fighting with each other, and then they just come in and mop up the rest. It's called divide and conquer. It's a very, very old game, but this is what they're after. So they're going to demoralize us. They're going to use this truth that I've just shared with you, and many other truths that you don't know about because they chose not to teach you in school. But when they teach you now how, oh my goodness, how terrible it was. Yeah, it was terrible, but don't let that influence you in your vote. Don't let that influence you in you remaining silent about what the government decides to do next. Because they're just trying to get you to be quiet while they roll over you. Because what they want is your freedom, just like they took every Native American's freedom. They want to make this whole country into a reservation. They want to make the world into a reservation. That's what globalism is. So think of Thanksgiving. I hope you will the way I do. Be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for your children. Be thankful for your health. Try to help people who need the help. But don't get hung up on some bullshit story that never happened in the first place. Be thankful that you are somewhat free right now, and hopefully you'll wake up and you'll realize that you want to be as free as you are right now next to Thanksgiving. If you do that, there's a chance. But if you think that you are free, absolutely free, then you really have no clue of what country you're living in. Ask a Native American what freedom is, and you'll get a totally different answer. It's time to wake up, America. It's time to grow up. Now, I wish you all a wonderful holiday, spending time with your family, and be thankful. But then I also ask the question, why isn't that every day of your life?